Concluding his official visit to Sri Lanka, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Prince Zeid Rad Al Hussein, convened a media briefing in Colombo this evening.
This has been a much more friendly, cooperative and encouraging visit than the one my predecessor endured in August 2013, which, as you may recall, was marred by the vituperative attacks on her integrity simply because she addressed a number of burning human rights issues that any High Commissioner for Human Rights would have raised at the time. I am aware that some of the same people have given me a similar welcome. I've seen the posters, but I am pleased that in the new environment in Sri Lanka, all voices, including the moderate voices of civil society, can at last be heard, even if sometimes the voices of hatred and bigotry are still shouting the loudest, and as a result are perhaps being listened to more than they deserve.
The UN Human Rights Chief also spoke on Sri Lanka's progress in the field of human rights.
Sri Lanka has come a long way in the past year, as you, the media, are only too aware. Given the much greater freedom you now have to write what you wish to write and report what you feel you should report. The element of fear has considerably diminished, at least in Colombo and the south. In the north and the east it has mutated, but sadly still exists. Virtually everyone agrees that there has been progress, although opinions differ markedly about the extent of that progress. Several recent highly symbolic steps have been taken that have had a positive impact on intercommunal relations, including the decision taken to sing the national anthem in both Sinhala and Tamil on Independence Day for the first time since the early 1950s. The following day, in a reciprocal gesture, the Chief Minister of the Northern Province paid a respectful visit to a Buddhist temple in Jaffna. And in January, the President pardoned the convicted LTTE prisoner who once plotted to assassinate him. These are significant steps on the path of reconciliation between the two communities, both of which bear their own deep scars from the years of conflict. Distracted by this conflict, Sri Lanka has also failed to address critical issues facing women, people with disabilities, people with different sexual orientations and other groups suffering discrimination, such as the plantation Tamils in central Sri Lanka. I hope that these and other neglected or discriminated against groups and minorities will now receive the attention they deserve, not least in the constitutional reform process.
Attention was also drawn towards a statement made by the Prime Minister.
Repairing the damage done by a protracted conflict is a task of enormous complexity, and the early years are crucial. If mistakes are made or significant problems are downplayed or ignored during the first few years, they become progressively harder to sort out as time goes on. While there is much support for the very important proposed constitutional reform, which should ensure the rights of all Sri Lankans, or that the rights of all Sri Lankans are fully recognized, there are also fears that at a later stage this may be achieved at the expense of other equally important processes such as truth-telling, justice and accountability. The Prime Minister's recent statement that nearly all the disappeared persons are dead has created great distress among their families who until then still had hope. This statement must be followed by rapid action to identify precisely who is still alive and who has died or been killed, properly account for their deaths, including whether or not they were unlawful, identify the location of their remains, and provide redress.
Prince Zeid Al Hussein also noted that the acceptance of the Geneva Resolution was not a weakness on the part of Sri Lanka.
There are many myths and misconceptions about the resolution.